Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In case you're new here, I'm Kim, this is Core Union. I want to talk a little bit today about inspired action. I'm going to tell a story that I have created a video on in the past, but I just want to use it again because it is a perfect example of how circumstances don't matter and inspired action doesn't always, sometimes it does, but it doesn't always appear to be at all having anything to do with whatever it is that you want to experience in your life. So before I get into the story, please do give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And if you're looking for coaching, the link is always in the description box below. So years ago, I had manifested a successful retail business, and I was in a city. This was, I don't know, maybe the third version of my retail business that I was in. In other words, I had moved a few times, and each time I moved, I got bigger. It still wasn't bringing in the business that I wanted. And I had my favorite city that I would always visit. So I went up to, it was probably a day off or after work one evening, I'm not sure. And I went up to the city and I was walking around and I took a turn and I saw this amazing storefront. And there was a retail store in it, and there was no signage saying for lease or for sale or anything, but there was a feeling that was piercing in the core of me. It was incredibly strong. So I went across the street and I looked at it, and as I was looking at it, I could see my business in that location. And I saw big letters of the name of my business and stuff. Okay, so from there, I kept thinking about it and stuff. So then I ended up getting an urge to go down a street because there was an open house sign for a home that was for sale. The home itself was a few $1 million. I certainly I was not making the money at that time to be entertaining to purchase a house of that much money. But I went into the open house and I loved it and I enjoyed myself and I lingered in the feeling of it, knowing that someday I was going to live in this particular city and someday I would be buying my own home there. Okay. So I met the real estate broker. We had a great conversation. I leave, I go home, and I don't know how much time had passed by, but I'm back in my retail store now where I actually was operating my business out of. And a woman comes into the store and asks to speak to the owner. I introduce myself and she ends up she tells me who she is. And basically she owns almost all of the retail store locations in that city that I fell in love with, that retail store, and that I looked at that multi-million-dollar home, my favorite city at that time in my life. So she owns almost all of the properties, and she asks me if I've ever been interested in opening another location there. And I was like, yes. And I told her, and she said, well, I have a location that I'm looking for a new tenant. And she told me the address. And the address was that exact retail location that was already occupied. I didn't even have to pay first-class security. She made it so easy for me to just open up a second location. It was like butter. It just flowed. So let's take it now from the back end of this. Okay, what actually happened is I was inspired first to look at this store because there was a pulling. It was a calling. It was completely magnetic. It was piercing inside of me. I got very clear just in that moment because it was so intense. And I had no resistance around this. I didn't say, well, at the time I didn't have any money, so I didn't say, oh, how could I do this? I can't do this, right? I didn't say any of that. There was no resistance. And then I went off about my day and I followed my happiness. And my happiness inspired me to take a right and to go and look at a multi-million-dollar house that I had no business looking at. But it was inspiring me. So when I met that real estate broker, as it turns out, she, behind the scenes, now this is God putting all the people together, putting all the cooperative components together without me seeing it. She was inspired by God to go to this other person who owned that retail store, and she told that person all about me, that she was probably impressed with me, and she told her the name of my business. Then that inspired this multi-millionaire this wealthy person who owns 3/4 of the city, half of the city or whatever, to drive 45 minutes almost an hour south to come and see me, who had no money and no business, thinking of opening a second location at the time. But that is how cooperative components work. So it just literally flowed. I'm not saying that everything is going to flow as easily as that, but if you could just get really clear and just really trust. And the thing that I see every single person, when you're having a challenge, it's always because you're not trusting. It is always the same thing. You are literally always trusting the 3D circumstance. And I will say this over and over again till I'm blue in the face. You have to stop allowing your 3D circumstances to rule you. And you have to stop allowing your fears and your emotions to rule you, because they are controlling you. You have to get into trust. You have to start really trusting what's in your heart when it's really strong and it's really deep, and you have to trust in God. Okay, that was just another story I wanted to tell. I hope this video helps. Comment down below, and I'll talk to you guys soon. I love you. Bye. Thank you.